Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations of Deceit. Maxwell Donovan had always been the kind of man who calculated everything. At 49, nearly 50, he'd built his security consulting business from nothing into a respectable firm with 16 employees. Not an empire, but something substantial, something earned. His colleagues often joked that Maxwell could identify a vulnerability in any system within minutes, human or digital. What nobody realized was that this talent extended to his personal life. For 18 months, Maxwell had been meticulously cataloging the subtle shifts in his marriage to Pamela. 22 years together, and suddenly she developed new interests, new friends, started protecting her phone with a fingerprint instead of the anniversary date she'd used for years. Their children, Liam, 19, and Sophia, 21, had grown increasingly dismissive of him, spurred on by Pamela's thinly veiled criticisms. "He's just so predictable," he'd overheard her telling Sophia 3 months ago. "Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like with someone more exciting." That night, Maxwell had quietly placed the first of several discreet tracking applications on Pamela's devices. Not because he didn't already know, he did, but because evidence mattered, documentation mattered, and patience was his greatest strength. The unseasonably warm April evening before his 50th birthday, Maxwell sat on their back deck watching Pamela flutter around the kitchen. She'd been dropping hints all week about his birthday gift, how it would blow his mind. He sipped his bourbon slowly, nodding as she waved at him through the window. "It's going to be a day you'll never forget, Max," she called out, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I'm sure it will be," he replied, raising his glass slightly. What Pamela didn't know was that Maxwell had already accessed her email and travel accounts. He knew about the 4 first-class tickets to Paris. He knew about the reservation at Le Bristol Hotel. And he knew about the 5th ticket, purchased separately on another credit card, for Thomas Hargrove, his wife's tennis instructor of the past year and her lover of the past 8 months. As darkness fell, Maxwell's phone buzzed. A text from Bruce Weldon, his longtime friend and the only person who understood what was coming. "Everything in place?" the message read. Maxwell typed back, "Yes. The dominoes start falling tomorrow." Inside, he heard Pamela laughing on the phone, no doubt finalizing details for their getaway. Maxwell took another sip of bourbon, savoring the burn. He'd spent his entire life building systems, safeguarding against threats, protecting what mattered. Now he would dismantle one, piece by calculated piece. Chapter 2. The Empty House. Maxwell woke alone on his 50th birthday. The house was silent, unnaturally so. No smell of coffee, no sounds of movement. He checked his watch, 7:38 a.m. He sat up slowly, noticing the perfectly made, empty space beside him. Pamela's side of the bed hadn't been slept in. He walked methodically through their 2-story colonial home, confirming what he already knew. They were gone. On the kitchen counter sat a single cupcake with an unlit candle. No note. Maxwell didn't touch it. He poured himself coffee and opened his laptop, logging into the tracking software. All 3 family members' phones were currently at Boston Logan International Airport, Terminal E, international departures. Their flight to Paris had boarded 20 minutes ago. Maxwell opened Facebook on his browser and waited. Within an hour, Sophia posted the first photo, the 3 of them toasting with champagne in the Air France first-class cabin, captioned, "Surprise getaway. Sorry Dad's missing out, but Mom says he's too busy working anyway. #Sorinatsuri." By noon, as Maxwell had anticipated, Liam checked in at Le Bristol, Paris, posting a poolside photo. "Mom's treating us since Dad's boring anyway. Living the real life now." Maxwell screenshotted everything, adding each image to a meticulously organized folder on his encrypted drive. Then he made a call. "Lane, they've left," he said when his assistant answered. "Implement Phase 1. Are you sure, Mr. Donovan? Lane Peterson had worked for him for 7 years. She was the only employee who knew parts of his plan. Once I file these papers, there's no going back. I've been sure for months, Maxwell replied. And Lane? Remember, if anyone asks, you haven't heard from me. He spent the afternoon methodically removing specific items from the house. Financial documents, family heirlooms from his side, and the contents of his hidden safe. Everything else, the luxury furniture Pamela had insisted upon, her art collection, the designer clothes, he left untouched. At 2:17 p.m., exactly as he calculated, his phone began buzzing incessantly. First Pamela, then Sophia, then Liam, then Pamela again, and again. Text messages followed. Max, call me immediately. Daddy, please answer your phone. Something terrible has happened. Dad, I swear we didn't know. Mom said you were okay with this. Maxwell watched the notifications accumulate without opening any messages. At 2:45 p.m., he placed his phone in a signal-blocking pouch and slipped it into his desk drawer. Then he drove to Bruce's lake house, 40 miles away. They'd been friends since college, and Bruce was the only person Maxwell had confided in over the past year. It started, Maxwell said, accepting the drink Bruce offered him. Bruce nodded grimly. How does it feel? Like watching a building implode? Maxwell replied. Controlled, precise, and completely irreversible. While his family frantically tried to reach him from Paris, Maxwell sat on Bruce's dock watching the sunset, knowing that halfway across the world, Pamela was discovering that all their accounts, checking, savings, credit cards, had been frozen by a fraud alert that would take days to clear. That the additional room Key Thomas had been promised wasn't waiting at the front desk. That the perfect birthday gift ambush was about to become the biggest nightmare of their lives. Chapter 3. Scorched Foundations. 3 days later, Maxwell sat in attorney Vanessa Rivera's office, his face impassive as she reviewed the documents. So they're still in Paris? She asked, glancing over her glasses. Apparently. I haven't responded to any messages. According to the tracker, they've moved to a much cheaper hotel. He spoke flatly, emotionless. And Mr. Hargrove returned to Boston yesterday. Alone. Maxwell allowed himself a small smile. Pamela couldn't afford his ticket back. Vanessa nodded. These divorce papers are comprehensive. You're not seeking alimony despite her earning more. You're offering no spousal support. And you're only asking for your business assets to remain yours. The house and everything in it goes to her. That's correct. The courts might find this overly generous on your part. Maxwell's expression didn't change. The house is worthless to her now. Vanessa frowned. I don't understand. You don't need to. Is everything in order? She nodded cautiously. Yes. We can file today. Good. And the other matter? Vanessa slid another folder across her desk. As requested, I've drafted letters to both children. Since they're adults, they have no legal standing in the divorce proceedings, but these formally notify them that you're terminating financial support for their education and living expenses effective immediately. Maxwell took the folder without opening it. Perfect, Mr. Donovan, if I may. Vanessa hesitated. This seems severe. Your children. My children left me alone on my birthday to accompany their mother and her lover to Paris, Ms. Rivera, then publicly mocked me on social media. His voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Actions have consequences. After the meeting, Maxwell drove to the small apartment he'd secretly leased 3 months earlier. It was sparsely furnished, but functional. On the kitchen counter sat 3 prepaid phones, each labeled with a name. He activated the one marked Pamela and sent a single text message to his wife's number. Divorce papers have been filed. The locks on the house have been changed. When you return, contact my attorney. Do not attempt to communicate with me directly again. He then blocked her number, switched off the phone, and placed it in a drawer. That evening, he met Bruce at a steakhouse across town, far from any of their usual haunts. How's the nuclear option feeling now? Bruce asked, cutting into his ribeye. Maxwell considered the question. Necessary. 22 years, Bruce. 22 years, and she planned this humiliation for months. Did you know Thomas has been to our house? While I was at conferences, the location data confirms it. Bruce winced. That's cold. But what about the kids? They're young, influenced by their mother. They're adults who made choices, Maxwell interrupted. Sophia has been helping Pamela hide evidence for at least 6 months. Liam has been calling me boring and pathetic to his friends for years. I have the social media records. Jesus, Max, you've been monitoring all of them. Knowledge is power, Maxwell replied simply. But this is just the beginning. Bruce looked concerned. What's next? Maxwell's phone buzzed. A notification from one of his tracking programs. Ah, he said, checking the screen. Thomas just arrived at Pamela's tennis club. Right on schedule. Max, Phase 2 starts tomorrow, Maxwell said, ignoring his friend's worried expression. By the time I'm done, they'll understand exactly who they've underestimated. Chapter 4. Pieces in Motion. 1 week after his birthday, Maxwell sat in his office reviewing the surveillance footage. Thomas Hargrove was creature of habit. Tennis lessons from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., gym until 4 p.m., then drinks at the Carlton with friends or clients. Predictable. Exploitable. Maxwell's phone rang. The business line, not personal. Mr. Donovan? This is Stanley Phillips from First National Bank. We have some concerns about the Donovan Family Trust. Maxwell smiled slightly. What kind of concerns, Mr. Phillips? Well, it appears all beneficiaries except yourself have been removed. Given the substantial assets, nearly $3 million, such changes require verification. I submitted all required documentation last month, Maxwell replied smoothly. My signature was notarized as required. Yes, but in light of your recent domestic situation, the bank requires additional. Mr. Phillips, Maxwell interrupted, the trust was established with my inheritance from my parents. My soon-to-be ex-wife and children were added as beneficiaries at my discretion. Their removal is equally at my discretion. Unless you can cite a specific legal requirement I've failed to meet, I suggest you process the changes as submitted. Silence stretched over the line before Phillips responded. Very well, Mr. Donovan. The changes will be processed. Good day. After hanging up, Maxwell checked his watch. In approximately 4 hours, Pamela and the children would land at Logan Airport. They'd been gone 10 days, far longer than planned, thanks to the financial chaos he'd orchestrated. His phone signaled an alert from his banking app. A wire transfer of $5,000 had just been sent from Pamela's personal account to Sophia. Emergency funds for when they landed, no doubt. Pamela's teacher's salary couldn't cover the financial hole they now found themselves in, but she was trying. Maxwell pressed the intercom. Lane, is everything prepared for tomorrow's meeting with Hargrove Tennis Academy? Yes, sir. Mr. Hargrove confirmed 10 a.m. He seemed quite eager when I mentioned potential corporate sponsorship. Excellent. And the other arrangements? The photographer will be in position at 9:30. The documents are ready for your signature. Perfect. That evening, as Maxwell tracked his family's flight home, he received a call from an unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. Dad, it's Liam. I'm using Sophia's friend's phone. Please, we need to talk. Mom's a wreck, and Dad, we made a horrible mistake. Please call back. We're landing in a few hours. Maxwell deleted the message without emotion. Then he drove to Pamela's favorite restaurant, Salvatore's, where he'd made a reservation for one. He ordered her favorite wine, took a single sip, then left it untouched, a small, private gesture in what would become a series of calculated moves. On his way home, he drove past their house, Pamela's house now, technically, and saw lights on. They had returned. He continued driving without slowing down. Back at his apartment, Maxwell finalized his preparations for the next day. From his briefcase, he removed a flash drive containing what he called the Thomas file, financial records, background checks, and surveillance photos documenting the tennis instructor's affair with Pamela. His phone buzzed with a text from Bruce. They're back. Still going through with tomorrow. Maxwell replied. Phase 2 proceeds as planned. No deviations. Chapter 5. False Reconciliation. Thomas Hargrove shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair across from Maxwell's desk. At 38, the tennis pro was handsome in a polished, refined way. Sandy hair, athletic build, country club manners. I appreciate you considering Hargrove Tennis Academy for your corporate wellness program, Mr. Donovan, Thomas said. Your assistant mentioned significant sponsorship opportunities as well. Maxwell nodded pleasantly. Our employees' well-being is a priority. Your academy came highly recommended. Thomas smiled confidently, clearly failing to connect Maxwell Donovan, security consultant, with Maxwell Donovan, Pamela's soon-to-be ex-husband. They had never met in person, a fact Maxwell had counted on. Before we discuss terms, Maxwell continued, I'd like to understand the Academy's professional standards. Thomas looked confused. Professional standards? Maxwell opened his laptop and turned it toward Thomas. On screen was a photo of Thomas and Pamela embracing in the parking lot of a roadside motel. The color drained from Thomas's face. What is this? This, Maxwell said calmly, is leverage, Mr. Hargrove. Or perhaps I should call you Tommy? That's what my wife calls you in her texts. Thomas stood abruptly. I should go. Sit down. Maxwell's voice remained soft, but something in his eyes made Thomas comply. We're just getting started. For the next 20 minutes, Maxwell methodically presented evidence of the affair. Hotel receipts, text messages, location data showing Thomas at the Donovan home during Maxwell's business trips. What do you want? Thomas finally asked, his confidence shattered. Money. Maxwell laughed coldly. I don't need your money. What I want is simple. You're going to end things with Pamela. Today. Permanently. And if I refuse? Maxwell smiled. The Brookline Tennis Club Board, where your academy is headquartered and where several of your wealthiest clients are members, would be very interested in these photos, as would your ex-wife, who, according to your divorce agreement, would be entitled to additional support if you've experienced a substantial increase in income or assets. I believe your academy's revenue has doubled in the past year, hasn't it? Thomas paled further. You can't. I already have. Maxwell interrupted. The only question is whether I press send. He turned his laptop back around. You have until 5 p.m. today to end things with Pamela. Permanently. I'll know if you don't. Thomas left Maxwell's office visibly shaken. As the door closed, Lane entered with coffee. That looked productive, she commented. Very. Maxwell confirmed. Has Mrs. Donovan called again? 3 times this morning. She's demanding to speak with you about the college tuition payments that were reversed. Refer her to Vanessa, as usual. Lane hesitated. Sir, your daughter called too. She was crying. Something flickered across Maxwell's face. So briefly, it was almost imperceptible. The same applies to Sophia. And Liam, when he inevitably calls. After Lane left, Maxwell checked his surveillance app. Thomas's car was heading directly to Pamela's house, now 30 minutes away from their scheduled tennis lesson. Maxwell had predicted this reaction with 92% certainty. That evening, he received confirmation through his monitoring systems. A heated argument at Pamela's house, Thomas leaving after 45 minutes, and Pamela attempting to call him repeatedly afterward, without success. Maxwell poured himself a scotch and called Bruce. Phase 2. Part 1 complete, he said when his friend answered. Thomas has terminated the relationship, exactly as projected. And now what? Bruce asked. Now we move to Part 2. The reconciliation. 2 days later, Maxwell finally answered a call from Pamela. Max, please, she sobbed. I made a terrible mistake. The kids are devastated. Thomas has completely ghosted me. The mortgage payment is due, and I'll meet you. Maxwell interrupted. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. The coffee shop Maxwell selected was busy enough for privacy through ambient noise, but quiet enough for conversation. Pamela arrived looking disheveled, a deliberate choice, Maxwell knew, to appear vulnerable and repentant. Thank you for coming, she said, eyes red from crying. Max, I don't know what happened. I just lost myself. Turning 45 hit me hard, and Thomas made me feel young again, and I know that's no excuse. Stop, Maxwell said quietly. I didn't come for apologies. Hope flickered across Pamela's face. You didn't? No. I came to discuss practical matters. The divorce will proceed. However, I'm willing to release funds for Liam and Sophia's tuition, directly to their universities, not to them. And I'll ensure the mortgage payments continue until the house sells. Pamela stared at him. The house isn't for sale. It will be. You can't afford it on your salary. Tears welled in her eyes. Max, please. We can fix this. 22 years. Were apparently meaningless to you when you planned your Paris trip, he finished. Here's what I'm offering. Financial stability for the children's education. A reasonable settlement. A clean break. And if I want to fight for our marriage? Maxwell's expression remained neutral. Then demonstrate it. End all contact with Thomas. Admit to the children what really happened. Move out of the house into something you can actually afford. Show actual remorse, not just regret at being caught. Hope returned to Pamela's eyes, exactly as Maxwell had calculated. I can do those things. I will do them. We'll see, Maxwell said, standing. Actions, not words, Pamela. As he walked away, Maxwell knew she was watching him, believing she'd glimpsed a path back. She hadn't recognized his terms for what they were, not steps toward reconciliation, but toward her complete isolation. The house she couldn't afford but now wouldn't sell. The children who would learn the full extent of her betrayal. The lover who had abandoned her. Maxwell checked his watch. In exactly 3 hours, Liam would receive an anonymous email containing evidence that his mother had used his college fund to finance her affair with Thomas, a creative manipulation of facts that contained just enough truth to be believable. By evening, both children would blame their mother entirely for the family's destruction. By tomorrow, Pamela would have no one left. Phase 2 was proceeding perfectly. Chapter 6, Tightening the Noose. 3 weeks after his birthday, Maxwell sat across from both his children at a restaurant downtown. It was the first time he'd seen them since before Paris. Sophia looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Liam seemed angry, his jaw constantly clenched. "Thank you for meeting me," Maxwell said, his tone businesslike. "Did you really have to cut us off completely, Dad?" Sophia asked. "My roommate had to loan me rent money, and I had to drop 2 classes because the university put a hold on my registration," Liam added bitterly. Maxwell regarded them calmly. "Your tuition and housing payments have been reinstated as of yesterday. Direct to the institutions, not to your accounts." "That's it? That's all you have to say?" Liam demanded. "What would you like me to say? That I'm sorry your Paris surprise went poorly? That I forgive you for publicly mocking me online while celebrating with your mother and her lover?" Both children flinched. "We didn't know about Thomas," Sophia said weakly. "Didn't you?" Maxwell countered. "The text messages between you and your mother suggest otherwise, Sophia." Her face paled. "You read our texts?" "I read everything," Maxwell confirmed. "I know you help her hide evidence. I know you both discussed how boring and pathetic I am. I know exactly who each of you is." Liam's anger seemed to deflate. "Dad, we made terrible mistakes. We got caught up in Mom's, whatever it was, her midlife crisis. And now you want what? Forgiveness? Money? What?" "We want our father back," Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. Something flickered in Maxwell's eyes. Not quite emotion, but recognition. "Your father is gone. He died the moment his family betrayed him. What's left is someone who sees things clearly now." The rest of the meal proceeded in uncomfortable silence. As they prepared to leave, Maxwell handed each of them an envelope. "What's this?" Liam asked. "Documentation," Maxwell replied. "Everything your mother did with your college funds. Every lie she told. Every manipulation. Read it or don't. That's your choice. But understand this. I'm giving you one chance. One opportunity to decide where your loyalties lie. You're making us choose between you and Mom?" Sophia looked horrified. "No," Maxwell said evenly. "I'm showing you the truth. What you do with it is your decision." That night, Maxwell received separate texts from both children. From Sophia, "I read everything. I can't believe she did this. I'm so sorry, Dad." From Liam, "Moving out of Mom's tomorrow. Can we talk again soon?" Maxwell forwarded both messages to Bruce with a simple note. Phase 2 complete. Children have realigned as predicted. Bruce called immediately. "Max, this is going too far. Using the kids as pawns." "They're not pawns," Maxwell interrupted. "They're adults making informed choices based on facts. Carefully selected facts you've provided, Bruce countered. Listen to yourself. Is this really what you want? To destroy your entire family. They destroyed the family. Maxwell replied coldly. I'm simply ensuring consequences. And Pamela? What's next for her? Maxwell checked his surveillance feed. Pamela was alone in her house, sitting in darkness with a glass of wine. Her principal had called earlier about taking a leave of absence after she'd broken down while teaching. Pamela will receive exactly what she earned, Maxwell said. Nothing more, nothing less. The next morning, Maxwell received a call from Vanessa. Mrs. Donovan's attorney has proposed a settlement, she reported. She'll accept fault in the divorce, make no claims on your business or personal assets, and asks only to keep the house and receive minimal alimony for 2 years while she gets back on her feet. Maxwell smiled. Counter with this, she can keep the house with no mortgage assistance from me, no alimony, and she publicly acknowledges the affair as the cause of divorce in the settlement papers, which will become public record. That's unusually harsh, Mr. Donovan. Those are my terms. Later that day, Maxwell drove to Thomas Hargrove's tennis academy. From his car, he watched the once confident instructor mechanically going through lessons with clients. Thomas looked haggard, constantly checking his phone between sessions. Maxwell had known about Thomas's gambling debts for months, long before setting his plan in motion. He'd also known about the academy's financial troubles, hidden beneath a veneer of success. What Thomas didn't know was that Maxwell now owned those debts, purchased through a series of shell companies. Maxwell made a call. Proceed with the Hargrove acquisition, he instructed his business attorney. Immediate foreclosure on all outstanding notes. By this time tomorrow, Thomas would discover that his academy was being seized by creditors. By the end of the week, he'd be professionally ruined. Maxwell drove home satisfied. Phase 2 was complete. Phase 3, the final phase, would begin tomorrow. Chapter 7, Collapse. Maxwell arrived at his office early, reviewing the final preparations for Phase 3. His phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Mom signed the divorce papers yesterday. She's a wreck. He didn't respond. Instead, he called Lane into his office. Is the press release ready? He asked. Lane nodded, handing him a document. As requested, the announcement of Donovan Securities' new government contract and expansion goes out at noon. And the board meeting? Set for 2 p.m. All investors will be present. Maxwell nodded. Good. One more thing. Has Thomas Hargrove made contact as expected? Yes, sir. He called 3 times already this morning, increasingly desperate. He says he needs to speak with you urgently about an agreement we can both live with. Schedule him for 4 p.m. Tell him it's the only time available. Lane hesitated. Sir, if I may, he mentioned having information you wouldn't want made public. It sounded like a threat. Maxwell smiled slightly. As anticipated, thank you, Lane. At noon, as planned, the press release went out announcing Donovan Securities' largest contract to date, a $12 million deal with the Department of Defense. By 12:30, Maxwell's phone was flooded with congratulatory messages from industry colleagues. At 2 p.m., he presented the expansion plan to his investors, outlining how the company would grow from 16 employees to over 50 in the next year. The board unanimously approved his proposal, including the significant capital investment required. At 3:55 p.m., Thomas Hargrove arrived, looking disheveled and desperate. Maxwell kept him waiting until 4:15 before allowing him into his office. Mr. Hargrove, Maxwell greeted him calmly. What can I do for you? Thomas paced nervously. You know why I'm here. My academy is being seized. My accounts are frozen. You did this. Did I? Maxwell's expression revealed nothing. Don't play games. Yesterday, I get notice that all my loans have been called in by some company I've never heard of. This morning, my lawyer discovers that company is owned by you through some corporate maze. This is harassment. Maxwell leaned back in his chair. It's business, Mr. Hargrove. You took something of mine. I'm taking something of yours. Thomas laughed bitterly. So that's it? Destroy my life because I slept with your wife? We're even now. Even. Maxwell's voice remained calm. No, we're not even close to even. But we're getting there. Thomas's desperate expression hardened. I thought you might say that. So I brought insurance. He pulled out his phone. I have recordings. Pamela talking about how controlling you've been for years. How you monitored her. How you've been planning to use the business to hide assets before divorcing her. Maxwell's expression didn't change. Interesting approach. Unfortunately, those recordings, which I'm certain don't actually exist, would constitute evidence obtained without consent in a two-party consent state. That's a felony in Massachusetts. Thomas faltered. People will still believe. People, Maxwell interrupted, will believe what they can see. Like these. He turned his monitor toward Thomas, showing security footage of Thomas entering high-end hotels with multiple women, none of them Pamela, over the past 6 months. The color drained from Thomas's face. How did you? I know everything about you, Thomas. Every gambling debt, every woman, every lie you've told Pamela about being exclusive while you were seeing 3 other married women concurrently. I know about the prescription drugs you provide to certain clients. I know everything. Thomas collapsed into a chair. What do you want from me? I'm already ruined. Almost ruined, Maxwell corrected. Here's what happens next. You're going to sign over your academy's intellectual property, the client list, the training methods you've developed, everything, to me for $1. Then you're going to leave Massachusetts. Permanently. And if I refuse? Maxwell smiled coldly. This evidence goes to the police, the tennis club board, and all your client spouses. Simultaneously, Thomas stared at him in disbelief. You've been planning this all along, even before Paris. Sign the papers, Thomas. You have 5 minutes to decide. 4 minutes later, Thomas Hargrove signed away everything he'd built over the past decade. As he stood to leave, broken, he asked, why not just beat me up or something? Why take everything? Maxwell's expression remained impassive. Because pain fades, scars heal. But knowing that everything you lost was entirely your fault, that stays with you forever. After Thomas left, Maxwell made 3 calls. The first to his attorney, confirming the transfer of Hargrove Tennis Academy's assets. The second to Bruce, simply saying, it's done. The third to a real estate developer who'd been inquiring about properties in Pamela's neighborhood. Mr. Calloway, I believe you've been interested in assembling parcels on Oakwood Drive for your new development. I can help with that. By evening, arrangements have been made for the houses on either side of Pamela's to be sold to Calloway Development Group. Within months, construction would begin on multi-unit buildings that would tank the value of Pamela's home and make it virtually unsellable. Maxwell checked his surveillance one last time for the day. Pamela was alone again, boxes half-packed around her as she half-heartedly prepared for an inevitable move. Sophia had texted her 3 times without response. Liam had left a voicemail saying he couldn't see her this weekend after all, just as Maxwell had orchestrated. Chapter 8, The Final Pieces. 2 months after his 50th birthday, Maxwell stood in his expanded office suite overlooking Boston Harbor. Donovan Security now occupied the entire floor, with construction underway for additional space above. The government contract had brought more attention, more clients, and more opportunities than even he had projected. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Donovan, your children are here. Send them in. Sophia and Liam entered, looking more composed than when he'd last seen them. Both had returned to their studies with Maxwell's financial support reinstated. Both had moved out of Pamela's house. Sophia back to her campus apartment, Liam to a room in a house with classmates. Dad, Sophia began tentatively, we wanted to thank you for helping with school and everything. Maxwell nodded. Your education was never meant to be a casualty. Liam looked around at the expanded office. Business is booming, huh? Yes, Maxwell confirmed. We'll double our revenue this year. An uncomfortable silence fell before Sophia spoke again. We saw Mom yesterday. Maxwell's expression remained neutral. How is she? Not good, Liam admitted. She's taken a leave from teaching. The house has construction on both sides now. Some developer bought the neighbors' places. She says it's unbearable with the noise and dust. That's unfortunate, Maxwell said without emotion. Sophia exchanged a glance with Liam. Dad, we know you're still angry, and you have every right to be. But Mom's really suffering. She's lost everything. US, Thomas, Sooner House. Thomas, Maxwell noted, has left the state, for what I understand. Yeah, nobody knows where he went, Liam said. Just disappeared after his academy shut down. Another silence fell. Finally, Sophia asked the question they'd come to ask. Will you ever forgive her? Or us? Maxwell studied his children carefully. Forgiveness suggests the past can be erased. It can't. Actions have permanent consequences. That said, I'm willing to maintain a relationship with both of you, provided boundaries are respected. What boundaries? Liam asked. I won't hear about Pamela. I won't be manipulated into helping her. I won't attend events where she's present. If those terms are acceptable, we can move forward. Brother and sister exchanged another look before Sophia nodded slowly. We understand. After they left, Maxwell called Bruce. The children came to plead Pamela's case, as expected. And Bruce asked, Phase 3 continues unchanged. How's the property acquisition proceeding? Bruce sighed. Max, I've done everything you've asked as your friend and attorney, but this is the last piece. Pamela's neighbors have both sold to Callaway. Construction is making her life hell. She's trying to sell, but no one will buy with development happening on both sides. She's drowning in that mortgage. Isn't that enough? Is it enough that she's struggling financially? That the children have distanced themselves? That Thomas abandoned her? Maxwell considered. No, not quite yet. The final piece of Maxwell's plan involved the house itself, the home he and Pamela had shared for 15 years. The home she had brought Thomas into while Maxwell traveled for work. 3 days later, Pamela received notice that her mortgage had been sold to a new company, which was immediately increasing her rate under an adjustable rate clause she'd forgotten existed. The new company, another shell corporation controlled by Maxwell, also declined her hardship request and demanded immediate payment of overdue property taxes. That evening, Maxwell received a call from a number he didn't recognize. You did this. Pamela's voice was raw, broken. The mortgage company, the neighbors selling, Thomas leaving, turning the kids against me. It's all been you. Maxwell remained silent, neither confirming nor denying. Why not just confront me? She demanded. Why this systematic destruction? Would confrontation have changed anything? He finally asked. Would it have unmade your choices? I made one mistake. You made hundreds of decisions, Pamela. Every time you met him, every lie you told, every time you brought him into our home. The Paris trip wasn't impulsive. You planned it for months. You orchestrated my public humiliation with our children as accomplices. Her breathing was ragged on the other end of the line. What do you want from me, Max? I've lost everything. I'm about to lose the house. I might lose my job. What more can you take? I don't want anything from you. Maxwell replied calmly. That's the point you still don't understand. This isn't a negotiation. It's not leading to reconciliation or closure. It simply is what it is, consequences. After hanging up, Maxwell checked the surveillance one last time. Pamela sat on there, her kitchen floor, surrounded by unpacked boxes, sobbing. Phase 3 was nearly complete. Chapter 9. Ashes and Aftermath. 6 months after his 50th birthday, Maxwell Donovan stood in the empty house on Oakwood Drive. The furniture was gone, the walls bare except for outlines where pictures had once hung. Tomorrow, Pamela would surrender the keys to the bank in a deed in lieu of foreclosure agreement. Her only escape from the financial trap the house had become. Maxwell walked through each room slowly, not from nostalgia, but to verify completion. In the master bedroom, he paused, remembering the tracking data that had shown Thomas in this very room at least 11 times during Maxwell's business trips. His phone rang. Bruce. Are you really at the house? His friend asked, disbelief in his voice. Just checking that everything's been removed, Maxwell confirmed. God, Max. You know she's staying with her sister now? The school put her on administrative leave after she had some kind of breakdown in class. The kids barely speak to her. Isn't that enough? Maxwell didn't answer directly. I'm meeting with Callaway tomorrow. Once he acquires this property from the bank, all 3 lots will be bulldozed next month. Bruce was silent for a moment. Tell me something. Was any of it real? Did you ever love her? The kids. Maxwell paused in the doorway of what had been Sophia's room. I built my life around them. Every decision for 22 years was made with them in mind. He touched the doorframe, and they discarded me without a second thought. People make mistakes, Max. Yes, and mistakes have consequences. After hanging up, Maxwell completed his inspection and left, not looking back as he drove away from the house for the final time. 1 week later, he sat in his office reviewing Donovan Securities' quarterly reports. The company had tripled in size, with offices now in Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C. The government contracts kept coming. Success had exceeded even his projections. His intercom buzzed. "Sir, Sophia and Liam are here. They don't have an appointment." Maxwell considered for a moment. "Send them in." His children entered, both looking troubled. "Dad," Sophia began immediately. "Did you know Mom's in the hospital?" Maxwell's expression didn't change. "No, I wasn't aware." She tried to. Liam struggled with the words. The doctors called it an attempt. She left a note saying she had nothing left. "I'm sorry to hear that," Maxwell said evenly. "I assume she's receiving appropriate care?" Sophia stared at him in disbelief. "That's it. Appropriate care? Dad, she almost died." "What would you like me to say, Sophia? What response would satisfy you?" "Something human," she cried. "Anything that shows you feel something about the mother of your children nearly dying." Maxwell regarded both his children calmly. "I've been very clear about boundaries. Pamela made her choices. So did both of you, as did I. We're all living with the consequences." Liam stepped forward. "This isn't consequences, Dad. This is revenge. Calculated, cold-blooded revenge. You didn't just divorce Mom or expose her affair. You systematically destroyed every aspect of her life. And the two of you helped," Maxwell pointed out, "when you abandoned her based on the information I provided. When you chose financial security over loyalty to her. You were willing participants." The color drained from both their faces. "Oh my God," Sophia whispered. "You manipulated us too. All those documents about Mom. You selected exactly what would turn us against her. I merely provided facts. Facts matter." Liam shook his head slowly. "Who are you?" "Because you're not the father who raised us." "No," Maxwell agreed. "That man died on his 50th birthday when his family betrayed him. I told you that months ago, but you weren't ready to believe it." Silence filled the office before Sophia spoke again, her voice breaking. "Is this what you wanted? All of us destroyed?" Maxwell considered the question seriously. "What I wanted was a loyal family. What I got was betrayal. So I ensured everyone received exactly what they earned. No more, no less." "Including us?" Liam asked bitterly. "Especially you," Maxwell confirmed. "You both chose sides multiple times throughout this process. First with your mother against me, then with me against your mother. Always based on what benefited you most at the time." He stood, indicating the meeting was over. "Pamela will recover, physically at least. The hospital has resources for her situation. As for the two of you, you've learned a valuable lesson about consequences and loyalty. Whether you apply that lesson going forward is your choice." After they left, Maxwell turned to the window overlooking the harbor. 6 months of meticulous planning and execution had yielded precisely the results he'd calculated. Pamela had lost everything: her lover, her children's trust, her home, her financial stability, and finally her hope. Thomas had lost his business, reputation, and had fled the state. The children had lost their innocence and illusions about family loyalty. And Maxwell, he had gained perspective, clarity, the understanding that nothing, not love, not family, not decades of shared life, was more reliable than one's own carefully constructed systems. His phone buzzed with a text from Bruce. "The kids just left her office. Please tell me you're done now. Please tell me this revenge is finally complete." Maxwell typed his response carefully. "It was never about revenge, Bruce. It was about consequences. And consequences, once set in motion, continue forever." He put down his phone and returned to his quarterly reports, alone but unburdened, in a new life he had built from the ashes of betrayal. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.